The Struggling Artist Record Club is a vinyl record subscription service where I hunt and curate the best punk and punk-adjacent music out there and mail their record to your door each and every month. Imagine finding your new favorite band from across the country without ever having to leave the house. It doesn't get much better than that. The excitement of discovering new music just got that much easier. As a member of the Struggling Artist Record Club, you are going to receive some of the best music you've ever heard from bands you may never even heard of. Whether you've been collecting records for years or just starting out, the Struggling Artist Record Club is designed specifically for you. And right now, all new members get a Struggling Artist Record Club exclusive along with the monthly selection. So head to StrugglingArtistRecordClub.com, pick a membership, and start building that collection today.
You're listening to the Struggling Artist Podcast.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
With your host, Trev Allen.
I wish to God that somebody would do something to block out the voices in my head for 5 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Today, our guest is Gregg Deal. He is a multi-medium artist out of Colorado, a painter, activist, disruptor, and frontman of the band Dead Pioneers. It was an honor to talk with Gregg about everything from giving TED Talks to facing racism in America to touring with Pearl Jam. Stick around to the end of the episode to hear a song from Dead Pioneers. This is episode 387 of the Struggling Artist Podcast, Struggling with Gregg Deal. A friend of mine sent me a link to your to the Dead Pioneers self-titled album, and he's like, you might like this, and it blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. It was probably the beginning of the year. I think it was like a couple months before Post American came out, and I was just like, and I feel like I've been listening to it for years now because I listen to it all the time. Right? It's like both albums, awesome. Like they're just super like powerful. I think they're very unique in the styles, like how you do your vocals, and like the music itself. Like, cause I'm like, I don't know how to describe it. I'm like, I'm like, it's indigenous, like almost spoken word hardcore, I guess. Like, and it's funny because whenever people think hardcore, they think of like screaming vocals, but like the music brings the anger. Like, you could talk however you want, you could sing however you want, and the music is going to bring that energy that you're portraying through your lyrics. Right. And to me, I'm a storyteller at heart, and like it blew me away right away. So
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Of course. And then, I'm on your website and I'm seeing all the art you do. And I was like, well, that's why I was like, hey, can we talk about everything kind of, or as much as we can, And then I was watching some of your TED Talk videos last night, and like powerful, again, like storytelling and educating people. And so I guess my first question is like, when did you at what age did you realize like public speaking and like telling stories and educating people on your culture? Like, when did that become when did you realize that this was something you wanted to pursue?
It wasn't something that I purposely pursued. It was just something that sort of happened, after college, and I worked for myself, had my own design studio. I worked for the Smithsonian first, and then I worked for myself. I had a design studio, contracting entity in the Washington, D.C. area where I lived at the time. And when things flipped and they started doing more art, and then it became art full time. It just kind of happened. I got called into a community effort that like is just a group of designers and artists that just like invite somebody to talk about their practice and what they do, and so I got asked to do that, and I did that, and I knew on some level, like, I'm fairly well versed in history and in indigenous politics, and I mean politics at large. I think they kind of go hand in hand a lot of times, and I know I'm articulate, I can speak pretty well, and so it just kind of happened, and it became sort of an aspect of the work. My first performance piece that gave me national recognition was in 2013, and I landed in the Huffington Post in, I think, June or July. And then by that fall, I was getting pinged by professors in colleges that my work was listed in their syllabus. And so it started at University of Maryland, which is in Southern Maryland, and DC's like a tri-state if DC was a state. And so I got asked to speak at Maryland and talk about the work and like conceptually where everything's coming from, and so it just kind of ended up being a byproduct. I know people write speeches and do all those things. That is not what I went to school for. It just ended up being a side aspect of what I'm doing. But I just also am I'm decent at it. My father, growing up, he was basically a preacher. And, pretty charismatic guy, super articulate, well-spoken. And, I inherited the gift of gab, I can do it. So.
Right on, man. Right on. Yeah. So I've done like, I've been able to, like, I was always told I was good at like public speaking. I never really did anything like outside of, I'd go to like a spoken word thing and do something I wrote, or I've emceed a few shows for people, you know what I mean? But like, I can just do that, I guess. Like if all the anxiety and all the stuff I deal with, like that's not a problem, right? Like it's when I have to go into a room and I'm just like, it's different, I guess, because I used to tend bar, right? When tending bar, like I'm in command of everything. But when I would go to a bar with like friends and stuff, I was like just not talking, full of, you know what I mean? So I see what you do, and like it's just I have a huge appreciation for it, and it's so. Like just how you do it, I can tell that it's a natural thing. So, but you never really did a lot of it, like until you got out of college and stuff, or
no? I mean, in high school, I did a little bit of theater, emceeing and stuff, like talent shows and stuff. A little bit of that, but no. I mean, it just, I don't know, man. and what's weird is. I have zero stage fright. I don't sweat. I don't sweat any of it. In fact, we opened 4 days for Pearl Jam when they were in the South in April, and the first show we did was in Florida at the Seminole Hard Rock Casino, and I went on and I was feeling super disconnected, and there was just like all these. It was just really weird feelings. And I went on, I talked to a friend after, and he was just like, yeah, man, that's nerves. That's what normal people feel when they go on stage. And it was so foreign to me. I was like, I don't know, what is, like, am I hungry? I just didn't know what my problem was. And I didn't feel that after that. Like as soon as we ripped off that Band-Aid, I think it was just going into the unknown, and just not really knowing what it was. But, I mean, when I did the first TED Talk, it was in front of about 7,000 people, and I got on stage, and it was overwhelming to me. Like it wasn't fright. It was just like, I don't know, a moment where I'm standing on stage in front of all these people, and they're here to listen to what I have to say, and to go from where I started in life to being in that position was just overwhelming to me. And so I wasn't scared, but I got emotional. My wife is sitting in front, and she's just like, pull it together. She could see it on my face, but nobody else could see it. And she's like, pull your crap together, man. And I did, and it was fine. But No, it just is something that just kind of happened. I mean, I watch my father teach all the time, and yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm lucky that way. It's something I really enjoy. I enjoy telling stories. I enjoy, doing all the things. I mean, even with Dead Pioneers, like just I have the audacity to stand on stage and just do the thing like I've been doing it forever. And yeah, no, I'm like a total dick. I recognize that. Like I shouldn't be able to just go do it, but I do. And my wife would tell you I have made a career of doing things I have no business doing. So
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I pull it off. I don't know.
I think because of what you do, and like I think it's important that you do it. I think you'd be a dick if you didn't, right? If you were like, I can do all this, but fuck that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like, I know that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, there's weird things. I have things like that I kind of like just come to me, and I'm like, I can do this, and it's weird, and like I'm a person who like in a real like, I don't know, I guess stressful situation, I'm fine, but then like I'll spill like mustard on my shirt and I just the whole world ends. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm just wired backwards, I think, with some things, but yeah.
I'm with you.
So so how long have you been painting for? Like, was that your first kind of creative thing?
I mean, I grew up drawing, and I was I mean, I was a kid that had a pretty big chip on my shoulder. So I just was not teachable. So
Same.
the teachers I had, well, I grew up in a small town in Utah, and it was a combination between, racism and just being in a small town. And so the teachers I had didn't really like me, and they wouldn't help me, but I also was not teachable. So I don't think it would have mattered, to be honest. And when I got to college, I started college when I was 24. And at that point, I think I had wrapped my head around the concept of just being teachable. And I went to school ready to go. And so I took a drawing class. I had a goal. I wanted to learn how to draw realistically, like a photograph. And I met that goal. And then I was like, man, I gotta take a painting class. I've always wanted to know how to paint. And I mean, I did graffiti stuff, in the early 90s. And so I understood, blocking out color and doing all the things that you would do for that. But it's also, in my mind, a lot like a drawing, where you're just using markers or even, color pencil or something, where you're just not necessarily blending all the time. Usually you're just doing block colors and sort of drawing your outlines around that. And so I would paint, with spray paint the same way. But when I got to college and I took a painting class, and I just was hell bent on trying to figure it out, and I had kind of figured it out. But I was a graphic design major, and so when I got to the end of, I was having so much fun with painting that when I got to the end of my, towards the end of my time, I went to the graphic design professor and was like, look, I know the final project for graphic design majors is to do this publication. And I don't really want to do that. I'd like to do a show, like a painting exhibition. But I'll build all of the collateral materials that go with it. So I'll build a website, and I'll build a, brochure and, cards, invitation cards. I'll do all the design work for that, to appease my design degree. And she got really offended by that and said, sounds like you want to be a painting major. And she kicked me out of the program, like my
What?
senior year. And, it was wild, man. And my design professor he was such a sweetheart about it, because he was like, man, I'm so sorry. And it was just like a shitty situation. So I had to take one extra class. I was basically forced to be a painting major. So I had the same amount of credits as a design student as the rest of the design students. And then I had so I could have double majored, but you can't double major in the same school. And so, I finished with a painting major. I painted right out of school, tried to get into some shows. I was an oil painter, so I was classically trained in oil. And there's nothing, I mean, we live in a society where everything is, people are trying to find the special thing. Like, you either have to be a really good painter, or you have to be creating something that's unique and that stands out. And I didn't have it. I was really frustrated by it, and had been trained by professors that were purists. Like, you have to paint in oil, and like, don't do acrylic, don't do spray paint, don't do this, don't do that. Like, look at your model, learn how to draw, do all the things. And then I reached a point, because this is like coming out of sort of lowbrow, as lowbrow was like taking hold across the country, and realizing that like I could actually take everything that I've ever done creatively. I worked in the sign industry, so I could do that. I worked in graphic design, so I've got that. I've got this small insignificant graffiti background, but I understand the paint and the use of the paint and how it works. And if I use acrylic, it'll dry faster. If I create stencils, I can, create patterns. And so I just started taking everything that I've ever done creatively and just pouring it into my work, and trying to make something, not necessarily trying to make something unique, but just kind of giving up and making what I want to make. And which is low key the smart thing, right? Like, no one's going to believe in your shit if your shit is not something you believe in. Right. And so that ended up being a big part of it. So yeah, the painting classically, and then it just ended up kind of being everything after that.
Yeah. That's wild. That's awesome. I can't, it blows my mind that you had someone that was just like, oh, they kicked you out of the class. Like, because I mean, I guess it was a good thing in the end, right? Like, kind of,
Yeah, I mean, I figured at the very least, like, if I decided to do graduate work, I've got this painting degree, so I can do graduate work in painting, and that's fine. I don't know, man. I've had weird experiences. I don't know really how to explain it, where weird shit like that happens. I mean, I guess on some level, maybe I was attracting it, but I just have a tendency to, I don't know. I think I mind my own business, but maybe I run my mouth too much. I don't know, man.
Right on, man. Right on. It's all right, man. It's what makes us who we are, right? Like, why, it's, you're not, I feel, if anything, like, I see it as like, all right, this woman gave you the boot, and like, you're like, all right, well, I'm just going to go do this other thing. All right. And like, and it's, I don't know. I've always had like a chip on my shoulder. So like, whenever someone told me no, like, I can't do that, like, I'm like, I'm going to learn that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm dyslexic. I have a real hard time with numbers. My job, I work with numbers. Like, data is a huge part of what I do. And
Sure.
So I am like meticulous to nauseum with like making sure I'm, doing the correct thing. And like, and like, it's when I was when I was growing up, so I grew up, like, I went to school in like 80s through the 90s, right? Like the mid 80s when I started, and then I graduated in 1999. And like, I was like, I remember we moved, and I think I've told this story before, but like, we moved from like Rhode Island. I was the only child at the time. My mom and I moved to Connecticut, which is right next door. Literally, it was the next town over. But like, all my cousins lived there. Like, my whole father's family lived there. So I went there, and then I started in a school system with all of them. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, I'm going to be with all my cousins and blah, blah, blah. Well, I didn't realize we were like the bad side of the tracks family until I got there. Because of a last name, like, I was thrown in like special education. I was put in like all these like therapy programs, you know what I mean? Like, just because, and then like after a while, like, I became like, I was just like, kind of became a bad student, because not that I was a, great student before, but like, I wanted to learn and stuff. But then it was like, well, no, you guys are going to treat me this way. Like, I'm going to push back kind of. And I've always had 100%. That chip on my shoulder throughout school. You know what I mean? Because of that. And like, it was just a weird thing. Like, it was just I think, I don't know. There's a lot of problems with the education system still, right? I'm sure.
Of course.
But
of
like,
course.
I just think that the late 80s, early 90s time was like fucking really weird. Like, it's just like, looking back on it,
No, for sure. I mean, my father was a pretty hard man, a bit defensive, very smart, but I think he was a bit defensive. I mean, I was 19 when he was born. I was 19. He was 19 when I was born.
Yeah.
And Same thing though. I did poorly in school mostly because I wasn't interested, and they tried to test me out for special ed, and I didn't have any learning disabilities. There was nothing there for them that was showing up on the tests, and I remember sitting in the room, and the woman was talking to my father, and she said, "Well, the test doesn't show anything, but it's pretty common for like Native American children to have some sort of learning issue." And so like it was still my fault. And my dad, trusting the teacher, he kind of took that. Like in fact, before he passed away, he was just like, "Well, you kind of had a learning disability." And I was like, "I had no learning disability, Dad. Like that woman convinced you that I did, and I don't." And the way that affects you, and the way that you like think there's something wrong with you, because in this age and time that we're talking about, like that was a huge mark, like that. Oh, you're one of those kids, you're being made fun of for that, and then being brown and indigenous on top of that, in a small town, and like it was tough. I know why I had a chip on my shoulder. I know why I did. Yeah. But then that's, ends up being why I was able to sort of survive in, punk circles and doing some of the stuff that I was doing. And I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't call myself a hard person, a hard man, but I know the assignment. Yeah. I don't mess about, so like, and make sure my boys understand that too, without making their life miserable, try to make sure that they understand that stuff too. Cause people are tough, man. And I think there's a way to take the hard things that happen in your life and to flip it into a positive and to use it to your advantage. I think the only reason why I'm able to write the way that I do for Dead Pioneers and for other stuff is because of the shit that I went through as a kid, and taking that trauma and dealing with it. But I also think the only reason why I can have any sort of sense of mental health and really dealing with the trauma of my youth is because I'm an artist and I spend a lot of time in my head, and I spend a lot of time working through things that I might have to pay somebody, a couple $100 an hour to regurgitate. And so I have this realistic, attitude towards myself. And, if there's something there, I'll talk to my wife about it, or, my sister actually works in the mental health field, and I'll talk to her sometimes, just like making sure that I'm on the right track in terms of how I'm viewing things. But the art in my mind is the art, and the music is the lifesaver. Those are the things that helped me get past a lot of those tough times into something that's healthier, and then trying to figure out how to continually be healthy, and just to let that chip on your shoulder go a bit, and find kindness and grace, not just for others, but also for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good advice, man. Like I'm someone who, like, I go to therapy because, like, I can't let it sit. Like, when it's in my head, I go the opposite way. I don't try to fight. You know what I mean? Like, I can't. I just let it. It gets too much. I work nights most of my life because, like, when it's quiet, like, my brain was just going too fast, and it was going too hard, and it was being too hard on myself, right? So, but like, I've gotten to a place. Nowadays, like, where I'm pretty good with it. Like, I still have my moments and stuff like that, but like, it's like,
sure.
But no, you're right. I think art is like, being able to do that and put it out there. And, like I always said, like, whenever I write something and like, I share it with people, or like, like I said, I've done a few like spoken words or open mics or whatever, like story time. It's like, I'm not like poetic enough. I'm very direct when I write. So I always say it's just storytelling, right? Like, I get up there and I tell the story of, like, like how my father was, or I tell the story about how when I go to the grocery store, like, what I gotta, like, all the anxiety I deal with there and why it makes me so angry, and like, so like, I try to, like, I think now I'm getting better at kind of being a little more poetic about it, but it's still very direct, right? It's just, it's like, I never thought I could write because I couldn't write with like like some of these authors out here that are just like, they can, describe a leaf that blows across and be 35 pages about that, but it all means this instead, like I'm just like, and so I started fighting some people who wrote pretty direct. I was like, oh, you can do this too. You know what I mean? Like, it was tough not having someone telling me like, like you can do this as well, and just finding it out late 30s, early 40s is kind of when I figured it out. And I was like, God damn it, Trev, like maybe I should have listened to somebody, but, yeah, man, I just like, so, and again, like I said, like I from the music to the art, to the paintings, to the public speaking, like, you have a very important story to tell, and I totally like, I like that. And I like that it's anything I've heard from Dead Pioneers. You could like Google something and you're going to find like, you know what I mean? Like you're not just speaking in metaphor here. Like you know what I mean? Like you're talking about these issues that are real, that are out here. Mm-hmm. And like, I think in today's day of like information, a lot of people are learning more about that, but at the same time, people who lived it and then like are still out here talking about it, which is good, but like I talk about this a lot. Like I'm from a little Italian town in Rhode Island, we had like a Christopher Columbus statue. It's still there. There's there was like a Columbus Day parade. And like, I remember when I learned about that guy, like really learned, not just in school, like when I actually learned about that guy, and I'm like, why are we doing this? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, but, and again, like we live in a day where we have so much information at our fingertips, but people like the older generation is still trying to fight it. Like, I just don't understand. Like, it's like, and I feel like in today's climate, I don't know if things are at their worst. You know what I mean? So what's your kind of like, can you like, when you go out there and you give a TED talk, right? And I mean, again, you're saying some powerful shit and you're educating people and like, but like you've lived this, like how do you like, I don't know. How do you navigate through that, while you're talking to people?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I just honestly like, especially right now, I'm sort of in my suffer no fools stage of my life. Like I mean, it like, I mean, and I'm not trying to be, needlessly dickish to anybody, I'm just kind of doing the thing. And even oddly enough, I don't really feel a responsibility to teach anybody anything. I'm saying the things that I know out loud. I'm saying them because I need to say them. And oftentimes I'm expressing my perspective on something, which is oftentimes a shared perspective. But I don't speak for Native people. I speak for myself. I speak to my own experience. So you take something like Bad Indian, and that is 100% my experience. I'm not speaking for anybody. I'm speaking about an experience of being sort of othered or not feeling like you fit in, which is also a universal thing. I mean, there's people from Ireland that love that song because they understand the colonial constructs of it, and they also understand just simply not belonging and feeling like that you don't fit in, which I think anybody really understands. But I also, it's such a weird freaking time because like we have more information at our fingertips than we've ever had. And yet it feels like everybody's actually dumber than they ever have been. No. And it's wildly frustrating. And I don't know, I think, in terms of like the older generation that you're talking about, they're holding on to things. I mean, when it comes to Native stuff in particular, and Columbus is tied up in that, of course, you're talking about things that wholeheartedly define the identity of people who are Americans. And our existence is tied into that. and in our doing, and not defined by us as Native people. It's just something that it exists. Like the stereotype is not something we defined. It's something that was perceived and placed upon us, to sort of justify the actions in history, whether that's Manifest Destiny or Columbus or anything else. And then when you take a look at, the way that Columbus has been framed in the United States, yeah, man, Italians are really brought into that. There's a whole discussion there, and there's a whole sense of pride that's built into that, even though Columbus was, sailing for the Spanish crown, but okay. And so like,
now, I just want to add to that too. Like I'm from a Southern Italian kind of community, like,
yeah.
And he was from more north, and like they didn't get along. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Like, yeah. So I'm sorry. Please continue.
No. It just like people's identity are caught up in these things. So when you challenge them, you're not challenging a historical truth. You're not challenging anything. Even when you look at Columbus's own writings, you can tell just by his own hand, he's a terrible, terrible person.
Yeah.
And he did terrible things. He kept very detailed journals about everything that he did. And but people don't care about that. And the reason they don't care about that is because their identity as Americans are so tied up in this thing. Like, imagine being told the thing that you believe your entire life is wrong. And now you have to unravel that. And I just don't think a lot of people have the wherewithal to actually do that. It takes a lot of insight in yourself to be able to do something like that. And so if we can press on and continue to push truthful narratives about somebody like Columbus, it's not going to change the boomers. And we might get half of Generation X, but the millennials are going to start to figure it out. And by the time you get to Gen Z, you've already flushed out all the bullshit, and you can be in a place that's easier. We're going backwards, of course, right now with this administration. They're trying to reinstate a lot of those old American, tropes, those American propagandist tropes. And so we might be up against a hill all over again. But yeah, I think honestly, a lot of people's problem is it's just really caught up in their identity, which raises some interesting questions. Do they come by it honestly? And if they do, you don't have to agree with them, but maybe you can understand why people are struggling with it so much. It's just when everybody gets nasty, that's the part I don't really understand.
Yeah. It gets to be too much, and and for me, it took me. It didn't take me. Let me rephrase that. So like I was so like I just couldn't grasp how people like, because I would never. When I would see someone, I just see a person. You know what I mean? Like whether their gender identity or is different than what people like perceived it was, or color, it doesn't matter to me. For me, it took a long time to realize, like, hey man, not everyone thinks like you idiot. Like, you know what I mean? So
sure.
Like I remember, I think I was living in Tennessee when I kind of came to that, and I would because I knew people that were like they were like, yeah, you seem like a good person, but like you're kind of backwards in some of your thinking. I remember one guy was just like, he told me we were born into hating everything. Like we weren't. Like that's a taught behavior. Like you were taught to hate. Like, and then it took I sat there out in this, and again, I'm a bartender, right? So I'm sitting there talking to this guy, like ignoring everybody. And like he kind of it kind of clicked with him on that, and he was like, "Oh shit!" Like you know what I'm saying? Like I was like, "Yeah." You and I think a big thing of what you said is like identity, right? People latch on to these things that they're taught as an identity, or these like idols or icons or whatever, like whatever they think it is, and like I've. Down there, I've seen a person of color that had like a Confederate flag wallet, and like my boss, who was his cousin, was like, "What is that?" Like, and he was like, "What?" And then he it's just it's weird to see, how like brainwashed we can be at times. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean we certainly have to be open-minded.
Yeah. But yeah. So when did we're going to change gears a little bit here, but I want to some of the things I have here kind of pertain to some of the songs from Dead Pioneers. But like, when did Dead Pioneers, like, when did you decide like this was the direction you wanted to go in?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it kind of came together by accident, which I know sounds trite, but I had a performance art piece that I had been working on called the Punk Pan Indian Romantic Comedy, and I got a grant to expand it and to make original music that would accompany it. And so I worked in partnership with this organization in Fort Collins, Colorado, called the Music District. And there was a couple guys that worked there, and so the person that was my contact there had connected me with these two guys, Shane, who played drums, and Josh, who played guitar. And so we had this idea of trying to, like, basically spoken word with punk riffs was what I was working towards. But I was just really unsure on how to do any of it, to be honest, and got in my own head about it. And right as everything happened, we're in the middle of the pandemic, so we couldn't meet in person. And if you know anything about music, like you really need to kind of be together. It's an entire vibe. And so we kind of floundered. I floundered for probably over a year. And I had a residency in Florida. And where I had a residency at is called the Atlantic Center for the Arts. And they have this entire big campus where there's multiple buildings for each kind of medium. So there's like there's a painting studio. It's a building. There's a painting studio, a sculpture studio, a music studio, a dance studio, like all the things. And I was a mentor to 6 visual and performance artists. There was a poet who had 6 mentees. And then there was a musician who had 6 mentees, and we all lived on the campus and, worked. And we'd always have meals together, and which was part of the gig. And so we had like this, gourmet chef that was cooking, 2 or 3 meals a day for us. And I met this guy, and his name was Lee Tesh. And Lee is the lead guitarist for this band out of Atlanta called Algiers, who's been moving along pretty nicely. And I think they were on the 3rd record when we met, and we just got to know each other, and we were talking about collaboration. And I was like, "Oh, I've been working on this thing," and I was kind of explaining, spoken word with punk riffs, and I wrote this thing yesterday, and like this might be a good candidate for this stuff. And we just kind of talked about it. And a few days later, we went into the music studio, and we had I had my wife send out a distortion pedal, kind of a special distortion pedal. And we used that, and he got a bass guitar, and we grabbed one of the other musicians, and we set up a shitty drum kit. We set up microphones. We went through it a couple times, just trying it out, and then pressed record. And like, I have a 6-minute long version of Bad Indian, the very first version. And like, we did it on the first take. It was just sort of lightning in a bottle. It was silly. It was cool. It was like all the things. And then when I got that recording, and I sent it to Josh and Shane, and was like, this is it. And then we had a place to start. So that was October 2021. So we did a writing session the following spring, I believe. We got together, it might've been summer, but anyways, I flew Lee out, and we got together in Fort Collins to write for 3 days. But I had just had an exhibition opening, like a solo exhibition opening, the weekend before. So it was like Friday night for that. And so we get together on Sunday, it was Monday. And we write all day. We walk out of the studio with 8 songs, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't feel good. And then I take a test, and I'm tested positive for COVID. So we got one writing day in, but we had 8 songs, because the idea was going to be, I know, we were going to like write for a couple days, and then we were going to go to a recording studio, and we were going to record. So we couldn't do that. Obviously, I was sick for several weeks. I got long COVID, so it really messed me up. And then we scheduled another recording, so it would have been our second scheduling. It fell through. I had to set up another schedule. It fell through. We finally scheduled one for I think it was February 2023, and Lee was going to be in town, so he was just going to extend his stay to play the bass. And Josh was our guitar player, and Shane was ready to go, and we had the studio ready to go, and it was February, and it was snowing, and it was a whole thing. Lee had an emergency, had to fly home. He said he'd just email his bass riffs in. Josh had a death in the family, and so he couldn't make it. So then it's just Shane and I, and I'm just like, you gotta know somebody. There's got to be a guitarist who can just play. We've already written it. We just need somebody to play it. And so he made a call to somebody who learned everything in 2 days, and then just showed up to play. And his name was Abe, and Abe did a great job, added his flair to it, and then I was like, hey, yeah, like we're a band, right? So we just like had everybody in, and I already had the name and all the branding and everything picked out ahead of time, because like as a true designer, like all that shit comes first. And but we just kind of threw it together, and so by the time we got all the mixes and everything, and we released in September 2023. And there was interest in vinyl, which I was stoked about, because I'm like, that's like a bucket list, like get vinyl for something that you did. And so I did all the design work for the vinyl. I did the front cover, the back cover. I did everything. And then, and we ended up selling like a few thousand records just doing that. Like we had no PR, no marketing. And because that was September, by February 2024, we had over 500,000 streams on just Spotify. And it was all word of mouth. We had a pretty big following in Germany. UK was doing okay. And then, of course, Colorado. And we got picked up by KEXP in Seattle. So Seattle ended up being a pretty big following as well. And that got us a record deal, because I was hell-bent. I was like, I'm not doing this again if we don't have any help. Like I trying to fill all those orders and like do everything was just a massive pain in the ass, and I didn't want to do that again. And we got a record deal. The record company is a independent record label in the UK, whose alumni includes Alkaline Trio and the Hold Steady, and Muse was on there at one point, and so they've got a pretty decent alumni list. And we just went for it, and on the record deal they counted the first record as our first record, so they went ahead and re-released that with distribution across Europe, and then we did our second record and released that in what was it, April
this year, right? April this year
2025. We just recorded our third record, which will be out hopefully next summer.
All right, cool. I just picked up Freedom Means Something, the single on Bandcamp, and like I don't know how that slipped out of my radar, but it did, and I was like, oh, let me grab this right now. So I grabbed that.
It just released, man, last week or last month.
Okay.
It released.
All right, that makes a little more sense than So, no, it's great. That's awesome. And it just seems like it was. Yeah. I mean, have you ever been in bands before? Like, was this your first band, or this is your first band?
I told you, man, my wife with jokes. I've made a career of doing shit I got no business doing.
That's awesome, man. Like, now I got to ask you from like a performative standpoint, like, do you feel something different when it's the band versus like doing a performative piece with your art, and It's a different energy. I mean, you have to go on stage pretty confident, I think, in either format. So the confidence really isn't different, but the energy is different. And performances, musical performances are just different. And it's taken me some time to get used to that, because I'm pretty stone-faced and a little stiff. So I've had to kind of figure out how to move and how to, like, for me, like long COVID really messed up my head. And so I have a hard time remembering things. I've gotten better at it. And so I've just been training my mind to remember things better. So the first record, like, is really
was really hard for me to memorize. And the second record was easier. And it's a combination of two things. One, I think my head's been messed up. But the other reason is that the first record is not written in a way that flows. It's actually kind of a mess, and hopefully a beautiful mess, but a mess. The second record flows better, and so it's easier to remember a lot of the songs. And so once I've got that dialed in, which performing for a month straight, will help you figure out a lot of that stuff.
Yeah,
and then that gives me room to move around and to kind of have fun with things and to start to focus on people that are in the crowd that want you to acknowledge them, and they're a part of something. They feel like there's a part of something, and if I can validate that, then that makes it better for them, and that's really awesome, And I remember we were in Germany, and there was they had set up a handicap section for folks that were like in wheelchairs and such, and it was on like stage right, but it was like right near the front, but it was right over there. And I did a whole song where I was just like singing at them,
That's awesome.
because like these are folks that they're in a good spot, like as far as what they can see, but like in the US, they don't usually set folks up that have any sort of disabilities into a good spot. And, for venues where there isn't good access, like I try to bring people up like stage side and let them be stage side so they can kind of see everything. And so spending time doing that, like you have to know your shit if you can focus on somebody and do other things while you're trying to, sing and emote. So it's
right.
That's taken some work. But the energy is definitely different too. Taking control of the stage. One of my guys, Abe, is actually the current lead singer for Rich Kids on LSD, RKL.
Yeah.
And he brings a lot of good energy. And Josh has a whole flowy thing that he does when he's playing guitar. And Shane is just so much fun to. He looks like he's having the time of his life when he's drumming. And everybody loves watching him because he is all smiles, all grins, and he's just in it. And so the energy's there, and I just have to hold it down, and I'm proud to do so. So it ends up being different. I love it. Like I absolutely love it. Like it is different from doing, in terms of my mindset is not that much different from doing performance art to doing stage work, but the energy level is unmatched to stand in front of, several thousands of people and say and do whatever you want to say and do, particularly in this political climate, saying some of the stuff that I'm saying. And people are just stoked, or they feel seen, or they agree, or maybe they're hearing something new. And, honestly, if they're offended, that's okay too. When we played Pearl Jam, there was a bunch of fans in the Pearl Jam crew that just absolutely hated us.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's hilarious.
I feel like when you're like a band like Pearl Jam is going to have different people drawn to them, but they're also like, they're on that level of a band where people want to see that band and that band only, right? Like people who open for like big bands like that, I feel bad because I know they're going to catch a, like, I remember I've heard stories of like bands that had opened for like Metallica way back, and like, everyone's just like, get off stage. Like, we don't want you here, and like, you gotta kind of sift through that, like keep going. Right. Like it's, yeah.
I think that first show was the one I was really nervous about, because I think we went into it and I was like, well, maybe we can play this song and we can play this song. So it's like not as confrontational, but like I have the same problem you do where like everything is so straightforward. Like I'm not mincing words. You know exactly what I'm talking about. There's nothing soft about what I'm saying. Like what you hear is what you get. And so kind of being nervous about that, I guess, standing in front of 7,000 or 8,000 people at one venue and then standing in front of 19,000 people in another venue because it was an arena. But like that first show was really tough, and I had found out the stage guys who were all like these fantastic punk guys, and one of them, like the way Pearl Jam does it is they'll play a show, and then they'll play 2 shows in one city. So they'll play a show, they take a day off, and then they play a show. So we played the first show, and I was just like, it was wild, and it was an out of body experience because it was just a lot. And it's so different, like, because we played a headliner show in Denver at like a 650 capacity, theater, and everyone's right there. Like, I could see everybody. Everyone's singing songs back to me. Like, it's a great exchange. Pearl Jam, you're like 20 feet from the closest person. You're like on this huge stage that Pearl Jam can fill. Pearl Jam can fill this massive stage. It's fucking Pearl Jam. But like so what we did is we just brought everything in tight, so it's just us, and I got enough room to move around, but we're like center stage, like it would be in a smaller theater or a club, and but everyone's 20 feet away, so you're on an island, and so it's just a different vibe. So and on top of that, I'm wearing in-ear monitors. I can't hear anything unless it's coming through the microphone, and so we play the show. And then that's it. Like, it's over. We come back for the second show, and one of the stage guys goes, there was this guy who was standing in the pit. So at Pearl Jam shows, in the general admission pit is all hardcore fans. They all belong to the 10 Club, which is the Pearl Jam club. And so it's hardcore fans that pay a monthly club fee, and they get access to the pit, so they're right up against the stage.
So they're the people I'm talking about, like yeah.
And so these are all hardcore fans. Well, there was a guy in the pit who is flipping us off and screaming "fuck you" like crazy, but I couldn't hear it. And for some reason, when the stage guy told me that, I was like, oh, okay, like. Yeah, whatever. Like, okay, we're all in. Like, this is what we're doing. And we played that second show, and we got some hate mail from that. And this dude, his name was Rick, and he sent a message where he said, you guys are, effing F word, like, gay slur. And he said, please kill yourself. And then the last sentence in the line was, you were literally the worst part of my day. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. You've been thinking about us all day, man. That's crazy.
I hope you read a song about him. Like,
but like, it doesn't matter at that point. Like, no one's going to come at you. Like, everybody wants to get strong because they're far away from you. Like, what, you're going to come over and you're going to kick my ass? Like, let me know how that goes. Yeah. And it just doesn't matter. And so by the third show, when we were in Atlanta, there was a dude standing in the pit, and he was just actively holding his hand up, flipping us off. And I just saw him, and I was like, hi, sir. I was like, oh, I can see your finger. You're very proud of that finger there, aren't you? I don't know what that is. Is that your IQ? I don't know what that is, man. And everyone's laughing, and like realizing that the crowd is with you, and the crowd wants to be with you. So as I'm giving this dude a hard time, they're jeering at him. Well, what I didn't know is Josh's wife was standing behind him, and he was screaming all this stuff, and his girlfriend was with him, and she was like begging him to stop, and he wouldn't stop. And then finally, she said, that's it, we're done, and she left. And he screamed like, I voted for Trump, what did you expect? And like, they broke up on the spot. So apparently we're doing God's work.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, like, at the end of the day, like, it's all funny, it's all silly, and it doesn't really, like, it matters, but it doesn't matter. And I got to the point where even by the second and second to last show, I was like, listen, we know you're not here to see us. We know you're here to see Pearl Jam. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. And listen, some of you like us and some of you don't, and that's okay. Go get yourself a beer, take the edge off. Pearl Jam's on after us.
Yeah,
and nobody can argue with that.
No,
it just is what it is.
That's so the good side of, like, like I said, you got to deal with those knuckleheads, but like, I'm sure like a lot of new people who'd never heard you guys before fell in love with your band, and
I think you're right in when you said Pearl Jam's got this universal appeal, so it brings all types of people to the table. And even though Pearl Jam is quite political, they have a universal appeal, and it really is the band of the '90s. So like our generation is really loves Pearl Jam, but the core fans, they understand that Pearl Jam handpicks the bands that open for them, and they want to give those bands a chance, and they do give the bands a chance, and even if they don't necessarily like us, like they're there to support Pearl Jam, and by extension, they're also supporting us. And so there's these great fans, man, that are just good freaking people. And we totally got followers off of that, and I'm glad that we did. And stoked to have had the opportunity to really even just do that. It was it was wild. My wife's favorite band is Pearl Jam. We played on May 1st, which is our 26th year anniversary. And
amazing.
I flew her out, and I was like, it's going to be boring because we're like there all day. Like we just have to be on site. Mm-hmm. And she's like, whatever, I'll just come. It was the most exciting thing for her. She thought it was amazing. Awesome. Pearl Jam played her favorite song. Mm-hmm. And then by the end of the show, they brought us on stage to sing, what's that damn song? Because like Rockin' in a Free World, we had to sing. Yeah. We sang that, so we're on stage with tambourines like a bunch of assholes, and it was great, man. And,
that's awesome.
And my wife like gets to see this and gets access. Like I'm friends with Jeff Ament, their bassist, and so he's hanging out. My wife and his wife ended up hanging out, and they were actually troublesome. Those two, you can't put those two together, but no, like and. It's an interesting moment, I'm 50 and just my wife and I oftentimes having these moments where I'm just like, what am I doing? And you have that moment. Not many people get that moment where you're just like, oh, this is what we're doing. And this is rad. And I hope I get to do it again. And we're just going to keep going, we'll just try to keep making it happen.
Now, am I wrong to think like, off the first album, did you have performative pieces that were before that you brought in for songs?
I had things that I wrote that are like the spoken word pieces that are on there. Yeah, I wrote those. I've been writing since about 2013 or 2014, so I have an entire notebook filled with stuff, and I still write regularly. I am low key working on like a spoken word record, and trying to pull some people into it. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So like, do you have the cadence, right? Like do you hear a melody when you're writing those? Like before, like we'll say beforehand, before the band was introduced, and then do you hear a melody now? I mean, you must hear a melody now when you write for the band too, right?
Not necessarily. No? Oftentimes, what I'll do is I'll write something, and then we'll figure out some music, and then I'll just take that writing and cater it to like the subject matter's still there, and I'll cater it to whatever the cadence is.
It flowed so well too, like from before, stuff you already had written that you brought in after the fact, and because like I think there was one or two that I like saw videos on your website of you just performing at like maybe it was like an art gallery or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I was like, wow. So it was before the band, I believe. So I'm like, how did he get the cadence down? Like it's the same, like, you know what I mean? It just worked. Like it just, man, hats off to you. I don't know. Maybe I think about that shit too much, right? Like I'm always like cadence and like, and like just how with music, like, cause I'm not a musician. I'm not good at that stuff at all, but like,
I would tell you I'm not a musician either, to be honest.
But like it means a lot to me, like when I listen to it and like the story, because again I'm a storyteller, right? So stories are, I think, the one of the most single universal things that we all carry with us from the dawn of time to now. Is to tell that story, and it's important to tell stories, and it's important to tell the real story, right? So. Like for me, I just like, man, the cadence, like it was like the band just came in and was like, yeah, we got this, and then like now with, now that you're like, I don't know if you're writing songs specifically for the band now, but like, or if you just have your writing, like, or you just write and then you bring it in or whatever, but like, it's just, it works. It works really well. It works really well.
This third record was tougher, I think, because really worked more collaboratively with Josh and Abe in particular. But like, there's some stuff that like Lee is brings in some complicated musical stuff, and so I'm just listening to it, going like, I have no idea what the like where I come in on this. Like it just, and so like I still have to get help on some of those things, and I'll write something and bring it in and be like, does this work? But then there's some stuff that like I write it and it's exactly what it needs to be. So sometimes, we have to massage it and I need some help. And sometimes I'll just hear it and I know exactly what it is and exactly what it needs to be.
Awesome.
There's songs like, I think Dead Pioneers. Yeah, it was Dead Pioneers. So Lee had this old riff that he wrote, I think in high school, and he brought it up and he shared it with me and goes, "Hey, I found this thing. It's from high school." He sent it to me, and he sent it to me with, I think, lyrics from the original. It was a song that was never published. Nobody ever did anything with it. And then he sent me a version without any lyrics, so I could kind of see where lyrical placement was with it. And I sat down and wrote the song in 30 minutes, did the vocals and sent it back to him. So like some stuff just comes together like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like really easy. And sometimes it needs work. And I'm just really grateful because the guys helped me along with that for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I gotta ask though. I gotta ask this. Does that 6-minute plus version of Bad Indian live anywhere?
It does not.
Oh, does it exist still?
Well, the record label pulled it, and then we were talking about making one with all of us. So there was a few things, some licensing stuff we were looking at, like if we release the original, not everybody's on it. Like, what's the benefit? There's a lot of questions. What's the benefit? All that kind of stuff. So we're looking at re-recording it, and I'm not sure where we are with that right now. But we'll probably release the 6-minute version sometime, down the line. I don't know, 10 years as a deep cut or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't live anywhere right now though.
Oh, that blows. I want to hear that. I'm just like, yeah. So I want to ask one thing too about some of the things that come up when in songs, that I've seen, like you talk about people like romanticizing indigenous culture, like cultural appropriation. Like how do you draw the line between that and people being supportive? And like, how do you explain that to somebody, right? How do you say, hey, like, it's like a little bit too far, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think tone, you can tell if somebody's being respectful or not, and I tend to treat people the way they treat me. So if you come at me hot and, kind of a dick, I'll be a dick right back to you. And sometimes I had an interview that came out of Germany and the questions they asked and the way that they asked them were pretty offensive. And so I told our record label, I was just like, I'm going to answer these exactly the way that I see them. And so I did. I did just that. And it was in an email, but I was just very, pretty straightforward about everything. And then the publisher actually called me from Germany and was just like, I'm so sorry if I offended you. Like, and then at that point, it's like, you know what? It's all good. Like you took the time to come to me and apologize. Like, maybe we learned something and we move on from here. Like, it's all good. Right. And so I try to give a little bit of grace and understanding, but you can usually tell if somebody's being offensive or not. And I don't, again, suffer no fools.
Yeah. Right on. All right, cool. Well, as we wrap this up, Gregg, I could go on for another fucking hour talking to you, and I don't want to take away from your time anymore. But I appreciate you doing this. Now, do you guys have a tour coming up, or do you have any shows coming up that you want to promote real quick? You said a new album next year sometime.
Yeah. No announcement on the album yet. We've got a headliner show in Denver on the 3rd of January at the Gothic. And we're playing with Potato Pirates and Team Non-Existent, a couple of like dope local bands. Potato Pirates they're actually both really awesome. we're going to be in Europe late February into March, and we're still trying to figure out our schedule for next year. So nothing else. We're not doing anything else for the rest of the year. We're just trying to finish mixes. We're trying to get some collaborations squared away so that we can have everything mixed and mastered before the end of the year. Yeah, and that's about it. Like, I'm just, at this point, we're not making we're not living high on the hog, so I'm hustling art out the door, trying to make sure that my kids got Christmas and bills are paid. So that's all that's happening here for the next couple months.
Right on. Now, where can people find Dead Pioneers to buy their music, to see you guys on social media, and then where can people find your art? Where can they find your art, support your stuff?
Deadpioneers.band, BAND. You can catch everything on there, from tour dates to merch to announcements. We're fairly active on Instagram, which is dead.pioneers. Is our
You are very
there.
active on Instagram. I love it. That's the only one I can.
No, it's been good. I mean, we're political enough, that I think there's plenty of content to post out into the world. I've been doing these little videos lately.
I love those, by the way. I wanted to mention.
Yeah, they're kind of silly, but like giving basic information. Like, a lot of our fans want to be good allies, and so they're asking questions. So might as well figure out a format to answer those questions. About everything from what's an appropriate term to call a native person to, what's the deal with, reservations and casinos and Snap. And so I got answers to all those questions. So yeah, that's Dead Pioneers. I think we're pre-sailing a hoodie, a new design that drops tomorrow, which is the 13th. And then Gregg Deal on Instagram. It's Gregg Deal, GreggDeal. No spaces, no periods. Pretty active on there as well. And GreggDeal.com, and which is a website I haven't updated in probably 2 years, but I'm doing my best.
No, it's a good site. I like it. It's like, yeah. I was like I said,
that,
I'm sure you did it all yourself too, right?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I feel fortunate. Like, I can cut a film. I know how to do that, and I know how to edit all my stuff, and I can do a little bit of programming, and yeah.
Awesome. Gregg, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me for this hour.
Yeah, Trev, thanks for having me, man.
Of course. And I hope to see you guys in the Northeast at some point, hopefully in the not too far. What am I saying? And then hopefully
Distant future. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. And I really do. I really hope to see you guys some point, because from the clips that I've seen of shows of yours, it looks like it's an awesome time. So I wish you all nothing but the best of luck with everything, and I hope we can do this again sometime. Maybe when the new album comes out, we can promote it.
Yeah, man. Anytime. I'm down for whatever.
That's the show. I want to thank Gregg again for being today's guest on the Struggling Artist Podcast. In the show notes, you have links to Gregg Deal's website, as well as Dead Pioneers' website, their Bandcamp, social medias, all that stuff. I want to thank Chris Chavez, Jeff Bousquet, and Aria Rad for being part of the Struggling Artist Podcast team. Check them out on Instagram. Chris at 716 The Sound, Jeff at JRB Image, and Aria at Coffin_salesman. Thank you to Mark over at State Line Records for sponsoring this podcast. Head over to StatelineRecords.com and grab some records from Mark. Thank you to the band Losers Circle for always allowing us to use their song The Great Illusion of Time off of their album Took Long Enough. You can always find a link to that record on their Bandcamp on our website at thestrugglingartistpodcast.com. Folks over at Patreon, thank you so much for being patrons. We do appreciate you guys over there. I think you guys are getting quite a bit of stuff, because when I asked what else you guys want, some people said they have a hard time keeping up what we have over there. So if you want to try to have a hard time keeping up what we have going on the Patreon, head over to patreon.com/podcast TSA. Everyone who listens to this podcast, thank you. If you write in and tell us how much we suck, or if you leave us a voicemail or a text telling us how much you love us, I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate when people reach out and say you should get this person on the podcast, or they send someone our way to come in for an interview. Much appreciated. If you want to get a hold of us, Trev at thestrugglingartistpodcast.com. If you have news for the underground noise, it's Aria at thestrugglingartistpodcast.com. You can always leave a voicemail or a text message on the Struggling Artist Podcast hotline, 774-570-1552. All right, it's time to get out of here, and we have a song to play. Gregg was kind enough to give us a track, the newest single from Dead Pioneers. The song is called Freedom Means Something. Until next week, take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you then.
The anomaly that is the United States of America, Western civilization, the space where people talk about freedom but don't know the basic definition of freedom. We are a country that talks about greatness, where few things are greater than having the freedom to reinstate old racist ideas, freely using the racial slurs your grandparents normalized, all while touting words like patriotism and truth and freedom and courage, contradicting your words by feeding unsustainable coal into your fear factories. The only smokestacks I've seen where the smoke looks like a human skull screaming into the ether. A fear-based move, mistaking fear for devotion, pretending to know what truth looks like, and freedom looks like, and integrity looks like. As a crawling sycophant, we know whose boot you lick. When you're dead and gone, I will speak your name, as your name will carry your legacy of disloyalty and lying and death and hate. When you hold your Bible upside down, standing in front of your tabernacle of hypocrisy, saying words like God and Jesus and truth and righteousness, our minds can't let go of the fact that you are saying words and that you're lying and somehow don't know the meaning of those words. To follow you is to follow nothingness, your unsustainable mystery marketed as an exciting possibility, but drops into a hole of nothingness. You fly the flag of benevolent nationalism with a threat of theological fascism and have the audacity to call it freedom. This word you can't define, that you can't spell, that you can't hold in your hands because your hands are filled with hypocrisy shaped like assault rifle sex toys. What do you want? What do you want? Power? Compliance? A seat at the table of unsustainable consumption? As our world burns, you will find substance in the paper money, like a currency-flavored apple pie, a la mode. Not to be negative, but it gets worse before it gets worse. And while you tell us, let them eat Big Macs, we prepare the guillotine to castrate your fascist idealism under the flag of an American militia cosplaying as a military sex cult. We will tar and feather you with your money and prepare you for your place in the annals of historical genocide amidst nationalistic maniacs that destroy families and land and legacy and truth and decency. Your end is near.